Hello, everyone, and welcome
Hi.
to yet another exciting edition of Chattin with Mr. Dave. Today, we are pleased to be joined by Mr. Drew.
Hello, everybody. Hello. Nice to see you. Nice to see you. I see a lot of people in the chat there, which is awesome.
Yeah, who do we got today? We got Lily. Looks like Ethan. Who else?
Sayul. Ethan and Sayul were just in my read aloud for the Great Glass Elevator.
Ooh.
Yeah. They were just in there.
Okay. Lily said she knew it. Yeah, earlier. Lily, she was guessing who would be, and in fact, Lily, little stinker, said, "I hope it's not another teacher." And I said,
Whoa!
"How dare
Lily!
you?
Whoa, you want me to leave, Lily? You want me to leave?
I want you to stay." So just for any of you who might be new or you're tuning in for the first time, which is the same thing essentially, you know how we do it. I will start. We'll have Mr. Drew kind of introduce himself and talk a little bit about, just where it goes. And then you guys can ask questions along the way. But of course, we'll leave the end of today's show for questions specifically for you. So after about 15 to 20 minutes, we'll pass the question to you, and you can ask Mr. Drew anything that you want to ask. So hopefully we'll get started. And of course, you can ask questions along the way. Tony keeps saying cheese. I'm not sure why.
You know what? Tony was doing that in my chat too.
Cheese?
Tony,
I love cheese.
I like cheese too, but I already asked you to stop that in my chat. So let's stop doing that.
Okay. So once again, it's great. We'll wash our hands after this. It's great to have you, Drew. So I've known you this year. We've had the pleasure of teaching with you this year. But I don't know too much of your story, right? Kind of your narrative, talking about you, how you came to be abroad, especially to Vietnam. So maybe you could just introduce yourself and then tell us a little bit about your story.
Yeah, first of all, I really like the kind of interview talk show format that you have going on with chatting with Mr. Dave. Hi, Danny. Hi. So I really like this format. It's great. And as you said, when you work with somebody, you don't get to talk to them about a lot of personal things sometimes because you're so focused on work, which is the way that it usually goes. For me, a little background about me. So I was born in Canada.
Okay.
And
whereabouts in Canada?
Halifax, Nova Scotia.
Halifax, Nova Scotia. Have any of you guys heard of that or perhaps been there?
So Halifax is the city and Nova Scotia is the province.
Okay.
I was born there, and my family is still living there. So my mom and dad are still there, and my younger brother is still there. But my older brother has moved on to the west coast of Canada.
Ooh, so I'm counting, is that 5 people in the family?
5 people in the family,
right.
And we always had a dog, so it was usually 6.
Okay,
usually
all right.
6.
Okay, yeah. Great. Now, speaking about dogs, I know that I love dogs, and I know many of our viewers in the web sphere and the YouTube universe love dogs as well. What kind of dog are we talking about?
So when I was young, we had a border collie.
Okay.
So a border collie is kind of like a sheep dog.
Okay.
It's like the kind of dog that what's the word? Like gathers. What is it? When it's
they
like
herd the sheep?
Thank you, herd.
Okay, they're like a farm working dog.
Yes.
Okay.
So very smart. Border collies are really smart. They're among the easiest dogs to train because their IQ.
Yeah, they love
really
it. Right?
high.
They want to be trained.
Yeah, they want to be trained. They want to help. Kind of like in their DNA. I think for those dogs, they want to be helpful, and so helping the farmer, helping the sheep to get in the right spot.
Okay.
So yeah, I love that dog. Her name was Tammy.
Tammy. Okay, great. Okay. Right. So growing up, you said, I believe you mentioned younger brother, older brother.
Yes.
Okay. And how was that? Did you guys was it fighting a lot? Did you get along, play sports? What?
There was a lot of what we like to call rough housing.
Rough housing.
Rough housing. Roughhousing was what you do when you kind of play fight and joke around and mess around with your brothers. And so my younger brother, 2 years younger, my older brother, 2 years older. And we fought a little bit, but we got along most of the time.
Okay, great. Now you said the older brother was 2 years older?
2 years older.
And the younger brother?
2 years younger.
Ooh.
So my mom was like older brother, and then 2 years later me, and then 2 years later my little brother. So she liked to count by twos.
Okay, very good.
Skip counting.
That's easy for me. So you're growing up there, and now tell a little bit about the area you grew up in. Was it quite rural? Was it like in the city, in the town, or was it outside farm?
Good question. So where I grew up in Nova Scotia, it was about 20 minutes outside of Halifax.
Okay.
So Halifax would be like a really big city with a lot of people, not as many as Ho Chi Minh, but kind of, it was a city. And then 20 minutes outside the city, similar to if you drive 20 or 30 minutes outside of Ho Chi Minh City, you kind of have like smaller towns.
Okay.
And so I kind of grew up in a smaller town where there was a good number of people, but not so much a city. So it was nice. It was quiet.
Pretty quiet. Okay, great. So, so growing up there, and then I guess off to college at some point, university.
So after I finished high school, I went to university and I studied history, and that's something me and my student David. We talk a lot about because David loves history. I don't know if he's on there today, but David loves history.
David, if you're there, big shout out.
Yeah, I love history. That's what I studied for 4 years.
Okay, great. Excellent. So big fan of history. Any particular areas that you like?
I think European history.
Okay.
It's really sad to say this, but it's the truth in Canada. I don't know if it's still the truth today. But we didn't study a lot of Asian history.
Interesting.
And I think that is really sad. And later on in my life, when I realized that we didn't study any Asian history and I started to study it independently on my own, I was kind of annoyed with the universities in Canada because I looked into it and I found out that it wasn't just on the east coast of Canada that history was mainly focusing on North American and European history. Most of the I think it was all of the universities in Canada were very focused on North American history and European history. Yeah. And it might have changed now, but when I looked into it 5 or 10 years ago, it was still that way. Not too many Asian history courses. Okay. But I myself really enjoy European history. One of my favorite things is castles, which I've visited a lot of in my life. Right. I've been to a lot of castles.
Interesting. Okay, let's get back to this. The castle thing is interesting. I want to point out someone was asking also before we get too far into your life.
For sure.
Is who was asking this about Cherry? Cherry is asking, what about your first job? So I think that could be interesting because maybe it was after university or maybe it was in high school.
Well, Cherry, that's a great question. And coming from Canada. One thing that's very different in North America, I think for majority of North Americans, and Mr. Dave can correct me if I'm wrong, but majority of North Americans where we kind of differ or are different from Asian people growing up is that we usually start working or get a job at a very, very young age. And when I say young age, like maybe like 15 or 16, or maybe younger. So one popular thing in North America used to be delivering newspapers. So you would deliver newspapers in the morning, and there was a lot of newspapers that needed to be delivered. So that was a job when you were like maybe 13 or 14, you could do that on your bicycle. Okay. You guys might see that in video games or something, like Paperboy delivering a newspaper. I don't know. So my first job was a paper delivery boy.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And, I was 13 years old. I was in grade 7. And I used to have to wake up. For 2 years I did that until I turned 15 and got another job, my second job. But when I was 13 years old, I woke up every morning at 5:30 a.m. And went and delivered papers. And let me tell you, that was not fun in the freezing cold weather. But that is Canada.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah. Okay, so now you're talking about we were talking about, finishing up university. You studied history, and then what was the plan? What did you get into after university?
So after I finished my 4-year degree as a history major, so studying mostly history, I already knew halfway through that 4-year degree that I wanted to be a teacher.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, so I started looking into universities that offered education degrees.
Okay.
And I chose a school that I thought would be a good one for me, and I applied, and luckily I got in. You don't always get into the schools you want to get into, so I actually applied for 4 different schools for my university degree, and luckily I got into 3 of those 4 schools, and the one that I really wanted to didn't want me there.
Okay, great. So now you finished up the history degree and then went for your teaching?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So in Canada, for your education, before you become a teacher, if you want to become a teacher, you have to do a 3 or 4-year degree with some specialty. It could be in the sciences, it could be in the arts like history, English, sociology, and then after you finish that 3 or 4-year degree, then you can go apply to take an education degree at some school, and depending on the school, it could be a 1-year course, and a 1.5-year course, or a 2-year course.
Okay. Now, we're getting on because a couple of people have asked a question here about traveling. So Min, one of our students, shout out to Ms. Min, is asking about what's the first country that you traveled to. So maybe we could talk about your travels, and also I'd love to hear about castles. You said visiting castles,
So the first country, can anybody guess what the first country is? I mean, I'm from Canada.
Actually, yes. So this is perfect. Perfect thing for YouTube. Hey, Lance, give a shout out to Lance. Anybody, let's get down in the comments, whether they're here or here, I'm not sure, but let's have some guess. What country do you think he traveled to first? Let's get it in there. Okay, we're getting Korea. Back is saying USA, which is probably a very clever guess. That might be my guess as well. Lots of Jolie, he's from Canada, so yes, this is first country is born in Canada. Jolie maybe came in late. No worries. Vietnam, okay. Oregon is a state, so it could be in the USA, state, USA, Australia. Lily's saying, great job, great answers coming in. Okay. So we'll give it to you in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
New York, USA.
Wow.
Yeah, the first time I left Canada, I traveled to New York, and I spent a summer there. I spent a summer in the upper part of New York.
Now, when you say spent a summer, we're talking
July and August.
July and August.
So yeah, our summer in North America is July and August, and I spent a summer in the northern part of New York State, as a tennis instructor.
Ooh.
Yeah, so that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, so if anybody is wondering why Mr. Drew is always beating me in tennis and badminton, well, there's a reason, folks.
I've been playing for a long time.
He's a coach.
Yeah, I've been playing a lot of sports for a long time.
All right. Yes. Okay, great. So I went to New York, and then what else? What other travels have you had? And again, with the castles, this would be so exciting.
Oh, yeah, we're going to get to the castles for sure. Yeah, one of my favorite things about traveling is to see castles, go into castles, know that, kings and queens and a lot of things have happened inside those castles. But before I do say that, I will say that I have traveled to 30 countries. So when I went to
30?
Yeah.
A big 30.
When I went to New Zealand over the Tet holiday, that was number 30.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and I've been to, one of the students pointed out, Korea. They guessed Korea.
Okay.
I lived in Korea for 5 years.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go. You got USA, and you mentioned Korea. You just mentioned New Zealand. What else we got?
Want to keep going?
Let's just maybe we can fire off a couple that you found most interesting.
So I would say I've been to a lot of countries, probably 10 countries in Asia, 10 countries in Europe, or more than 10 countries in Europe, actually, 12 or 13. And then Canada, America, Australia, New Zealand, And so a number of other countries, and Egypt.
Ooh,
So,
I know some people really love the pyramids.
Yeah, my student Lisa, she loves the pyramids, and I told her all about that. She did her passion project on Egypt, and so yeah.
Lance is asking, have you been to the Philippines?
Yes, I have, Lance. I have been to the Philippines. The Philippines, it's a beautiful country. Beautiful country.
Oh, someone is asking about Africa. Have you ever visited Africa?
So I have been to Africa because I've been to Egypt.
Egypt, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Egypt
of course.
is in the northeastern part of Africa. But I would love to go back to Africa and explore some other countries in Africa. Yeah, I really loved Egypt. The people were lovely. Great place.
Yeah, great. Okay. Anybody? Oh, David was asking about Switzerland. To Switzerland.
Is that my David?
Yes.
Hey, David. And David knows that I went to Switzerland. Because funny thing about Switzerland is that I met David in Paris. David. I met David and his family in Paris, and we spent the day together.
Really?
We went on a boat cruise, and even though we were in France, we had Italian food.
What?
Yeah.
You had Italian food in France?
In France, the pizza was amazing. David shared the pizza with me. He's a very nice boy.
Do you remember what kind of pizza it was? I'll put you on the spot.
I'm going to say...
Does David remember?
David, was it pepperoni pizza that you and me and Jeremy had?
All right. Lance commenting back, Philippines.
And then I did go to Switzerland after France. After I said goodbye to David and his family, I went to Switzerland.
Yeah. Lance is commenting back, best beaches in the Philippines. Min is saying that her aunt is in the Philippines right now. So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so you traveled quite a bit, and then maybe now we can touch a little bit on the castles.
Okay, so...
do you guys love castles? If you love castles, give us a smile or a thumbs up. I love castles.
I think castles are so cool. Oh, he says pepperoni and cheese.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So I've always loved castles. Ever since I was a young boy, I was fascinated with history. And when you're studying history, you cannot avoid kings and queens and empires.
Knights and...
knights.
Heroes and dragons.
Of course, dragons. Yeah. I love dragons. Well, I mean, some people say, well, dragons are more fantasy. Dragons are fantasy. And there are some theories from scientists that say dragons...
dragons are real?
Dragons are real in that dragons are actually characteristically in the lizard family. Scientists will say that. So they'll say, going back far enough, we might not be able to find other members of the lizard families that could fly.
Yeah.
Or you know what I mean? So scientists can have theories. It's okay to have theories. There's nothing wrong with that. Science is never 100% absolute. There's always theories out there. There's a lot of theories in science that are not proven, but there is evidence. And one evidential thing we have is, there are reptiles and lizards that resemble what people used to say were dragons.
And Ethan's mentioning, of course, the Komodo dragon.
Thank you, Ethan. We love that.
So, back to castles. Where have you been to the castles?
Man, I've been to a lot of castles. The first castles that I ever went to were in Poland.
Okay.
Poland has a lot of beautiful castles. So Poland was the first one. I really loved that. Austria also had some beautiful castles.
Okay.
Czech Republic. What was it when I was there? Czechoslovakia? I always forget what it was and when it changed. Czech Republic, beautiful castles. And then I have to say, I've been to castles in Brussels, which is in Belgium.
Yep.
So castles in Belgium, castles in England, castles in Scotland, castles in Wales, castles in Ireland. But I have to say that my favorite castle ever was actually in Poland. And I think it was the second castle I'd ever been to, and it was just amazing.
Now,
amazing.
What sorts of, when you're saying amazing, was it just the size? Was it details? What exactly?
So for me, one thing that really impressed me with castles, the first thing is the size.
Yep.
The second thing is how well it's been preserved. And so sometimes
preserve, you mean?
So how well has it been
kept nice, right?
kept up? And sometimes it's not their fault because a lot of these castles have been bombed. And there's been a lot of wars in the world.
That's right.
David and I have talked a lot about that. There's been a lot of wars in the world.
Sometimes they get destroyed, right?
Yeah, they affect a lot of things in different countries. And so a lot of castles.
Really, so the one you're talking about is still really, really nice. And beautiful.
I mean, but it's just luck.
Wow.
You know, it's more luck than anything else that a bomb from Germany, coming from Germany during World War II, didn't bomb that castle in Poland. Right. You know.
Okay.
But yeah, so I like when they're big. That's always fun and cool to walk through a huge castle. If they're intact or preserved, which means they're not really destroyed, or they're not really partly destroyed, unfortunately. So you can see the whole thing and what it looked like a long time ago. Still,
but they're a little bit creepy. Is there like you go down into the dungeons?
Oh yes, the dungeons are really cool because people have been tortured there. People have been killed there. So this is all a part of real life and history and, living in a castle.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. We do got one, maybe Ethan's giving us a little clue here. He's asking about, have you been to Kilkenny Castle?
Wow. So Kilkenny, I have not been to Kilkenny Castle. Oh my gosh, I have been there. Oh my gosh, Ethan! Thank you for reminding me.
Wow.
I remember when I was in. I'm trying to remember exactly where it is now. Ireland. It's in Ireland, right, Ethan? Ethan, search that for me. I believe it's in Ireland. So I wasn't going to go to Kilkenny. I could be wrong. Maybe it's in England. I could be getting the names mixed up.
Okay.
I wasn't supposed to go to Kilkenny because I wanted to go somewhere else. But then I decided I am going to go to Kilkenny. And I did go to that castle, and it was awesome. Awesome. And I see that David said, did you go to Buckingham Palace?
Yeah, we got a couple. We got Buckingham.
I did go to Buckingham Palace. I was there to see it. And it was really cool. I didn't go inside because the lineup was long, and I didn't want to wait. But I saw it. So, yeah.
Now, I do have one question since, maybe it's not the right term here, so forgive me.
Not forgiven.
But now, have you been to any castles in Asia?
So I think in Asia, I think that a castle is more for maybe like the top ruling people in a country or in a city. So I would say that in Asia, I would think they would be temples.
Well, because I think the one
you tell me.
Well, I was thinking of maybe you guys in the YouTube universe have been to Hue. And Hue, they call it like a citadel. And there's a citadel. There's been several citadels in Ho Chi Minh City a long time ago, and some citadels, of course, famously citadels in Hue. So I was wondering, they have like a moat going around in the Hue. They have a big wall.
So would you say a citadel is kind of like it's like a castle?
That's what I'm thinking. What about you guys? Okay, there's castles in Japan. Okay.
Hanji Castle. So they call it a castle. But what I would say about that is that, like when I was in Korea, I went to many temples, and that's where kings did live. Okay. So they still call them temples today. They called them temples 1,000 years ago. So the king, I worked at a university. It was called Sejong University, and it was named after King Sejong. And King Sejong did have a temple that he lived in when he lived. Now, what I would say about the castle in Japan is that Japan, more than other Asian countries, unless you're talking about Hong Kong, are very westernized.
Okay.
Japan does have more of a Western feel, especially they drive on the same side of the road as England and Hong Kong, I believe.
Interesting.
Check with Miss Kanaka on that. I think they do drive on the left, but I could be wrong. I thought Japan was in that category.
Okay, so wow, we're getting a lot of questions more about where you've traveled and visited to. Someone's asking about.
I've been to Japan.
Been to Japan. Okay, how about I would guess Germany.
I've been to Germany.
Been to Germany. You've been to Korea. You lived in Korea. Maybe we could talk about that for a bit. How long did you live in Korea?
So I lived in Korea for 5 years.
And, 5 years.
5 years.
And how many now in Vietnam?
This September would make this July would make 3 years living in Vietnam.
So 5 years, quite a long time in Korea. Okay, so what was that like?
Korea was a great place. Some of my students know this, but I was actually a university professor when I was in Korea.
Okay.
I was teaching English academic writing, and I was also teaching job skills so that my students could go on to work in countries that were English-speaking countries.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I teach them how to interview for jobs.
Okay.
And also we'd work on a lot of vocabulary and writing activities to help them.
Now, I know you and you guys know as well, very physically fit and a healthy eater as well. So I'd be curious to get your thoughts on Korean food, your Korean diet, because I know that you cook a lot for yourself and things. So what was your food experience like in Korea?
Korean's food, and I know Sung-Jun and So-Yul will agree with this, and Jun-Sung. Korean food is... like I said, I've been to 30 countries in my life, and I've actually eaten food from countries that I haven't been in yet, because a lot of countries have food from all around the world. And I would definitely put Korean food in my top 5.
Ooh, top 5.
Top 5. It's healthy, it's delicious.
Healthy, delicious.
There's a large variety.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a large variety of dishes with different meats, different vegetables, different sauces, different spices. Koreans take cooking very serious.
Okay.
They really care about cooking, and they put a lot of what I say, love into their food. A lot of love into their food. It's a big part of their culture. It's a big part of their culture.
Now, can you remember any of them? We've got some people messaging about dak galbi and some takbaki. I don't know these things, but do you remember some of the names of them?
So I'm going to tell you my 2 favorite dishes, and the Koreans on the chat board will know these very well.
Okay.
So my number 1 favorite is jeukdabbap. Jeukdabbap is a pork dish, and it has pork and vegetables and rice. And the most important thing about jeukdabbap is the sauce. The sauce is phenomenal. You can't get it anywhere else. The way that, even when I've had it here in Vietnam, made by Koreans, it's not the same as having it made by Koreans in Korea.
Wow.
Number 2 is dokbaegi bulgogi. And so dokbaegi bulgogi is a wonderful beef soup, and so it's similar to hui pho or something like that, where it's like a soup. It's a soup, and it is amazing.
Okay,
so good,
fantastic. Now, as promised, guys, at this portion of the show, we're gonna turn it over to you out there in YouTube land, and so right now. Ask any questions you want. We'll do rapid fire questions because I know that you guys have to get to PE very soon
at 2 o'clock.
So let's go. Let's see what we got. Yes, we're all very hungry now. I know who is joining in. Mr. Mark says he was in Hawaii. So now I know it's Mr. Mark. Shout out to Mr. Mark.
Ask Mr. Drew to spell that. I cannot spell dokbaegi bulgogi right now.
Yeah. Okay, any questions?
I think they asked a lot of questions.
Yeah, but are there any right now? I know you've got to go to PE, get that exercise.
Yeah.
Any questions? Have you been to Thailand?
I have been to Thailand.
Okay, what's your favorite animal?
Tiger.
All right.
Which I saw in Thailand. I held a baby.
Baby tigers. Okay, any other questions? Jolie, Lily, Back, Tom. Any questions? We're going to get going here. Have you been to Taiwan?
I have been to Taiwan.
Okay. Did you like the food in Thailand?
Actually, Thai food is my number 1 favorite food.
It's very, very good. Okay. Have you been to any countries in South America?
I have not been to South America yet.
Oh, okay.
Maybe in the future after all this coronavirus.
Oh, favorite teacher?
My favorite teacher?
Interesting. That's a good one.
That's a good one.
In the past or right now?
At AIS or when I was growing up.
Okay, we'll wait for that. Let's see. Jolie's asking, have you been to Hawaii?
I have not been to Hawaii, but my brother and my mother have been there, and I'm kind of jealous because they got to go there. Favorite student.
Okay, favorite student.
We, of course, never have favorite students. We love every student the same. Did my nose grow when I said that? I think my nose grew.
Okay, favorite coworker.
Oh, Ethan, will you be
Interesting.
here next year?
Favorite game? What about, do you play any games?
When I was younger, I used to
gaming?
play a lot of video games, and racing games were my favorite.
Okay.
Yeah, Need for Speed.
I know you was a huge NBA fan.
Yeah, so
Have you
NBA
ever played
games.
any NBA games?
NBA Jam.
Oh, NBA Jam. He's on fire. What a great game. Okay. Oh, Jolie said she was.
coworker.
Oh my gosh, Jolie said she was born in Hawaii.
What?
Isn't that interesting?
That's
great.
really cool.
Favorite kind of dog? Quick.
Favorite kind of dog is a husky.
Okay, here we go, guys. PE time. Can't take up any more time. Go to PE.
Have fun.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr.
And remember,
Dave.
on Friday we have a new special guest, not a teacher, not from school, by a special
You don't
request.
have to hear any more boring teachers.
Special request is the person who is working, making things very delicious. So tune in next time, Friday at 1:30. And you will be very, very pleased to talk with this person on Friday at 1:30. Okay, happy Earth Day. Go to PE. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Lily was born in Australia. That's cool.
Oh, yeah.